Okay, so today we're doing something kind of cool. We're cracking open the personal diary of an emperor.
Wow.
I know, right? We're diving into Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
I love meditations.
Right. This is the Roman emperor who also happened to be a Stoic philosopher.
Yeah, not just any historical figure's musings. These are his private reflections.
Exactly.
It's like we have this direct line to the very human struggles of a man grappling with immense power and responsibility almost 2,000 years ago.
I know. It's like getting a peek behind the curtain of history, which I love.
Yeah.
We're working with the Penguin Classics 2006 edition of Meditations because it has all these great notes and commentary.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it adds another layer to our exploration. But, rather than giving you a history lesson or like a straight-up philosophical lecture, what we really want to do is uncover how Marcus Aurelius put Stoic philosophy into practice. Not just the theory,
Right.
but like the day-to-day reality of running an empire.
Well, and it's remarkable how relevant it still feels today.
Totally. It's like this guy was wrestling with some of the same fundamental questions we're still grappling with. Death, duty, purpose, even just trying to find meaning in the mundane. It's all there.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes meditations so enduring.
Yeah.
He was insightful enough to recognize that even as an emperor, he wasn't exempt from these universal human experiences.
That's exactly.
Like he has this passage where he reflects on people at table, in bed, basically observing the same everyday dramas and repetitive behaviors that we still see today.
Totally. And probably journaling about it later, just like us.
Exactly.
But one of the things that jumped out at me was how much Marcus talks about this internal battle between our directing mind, that rational part of ourselves, and what he calls passions of the flesh.
Right.
Which, I don't know about you, but I feel like that is so relatable.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, that little voice in your head telling you to eat the entire pint of ice cream?
Yeah.
That's the passions of the flesh talking.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how, even as an emperor, he acknowledges this constant push and pull within himself.
Oh, totally.
He doesn't shy away from the fact that it's a struggle.
It's almost as if he's describing two distinct beings duking it out inside him. In Book 2, he talks about how our directing mind shouldn't be bothered by the body's discomfort.
Oh.
Easier said than done, right?
Right.
I can just imagine him saying that while, sitting on a golden throne. But I think it highlights this core Stoic principle that we have a choice in how we react to things, even when they're unpleasant or downright painful.
And that choice, that power to choose our response, that's at the heart of Stoicism. It's not about suppressing our emotions. It's about recognizing that our thoughts, our judgments about a situation are what truly shape our experience.
Which brings us to what might be my favorite Marcus Aurelius quote ever. I even wrote it down because I love it so much. All is as thinking makes it so, talk about a profound statement.
That quote is pure Stoic gold.
I know, right?
He's saying that our perception essentially becomes our reality. If we believe something to be bad, it becomes bad for us regardless of the actual circumstance.
It's like in Book 4 when he talks about that annoying person, the black character, who just throws your whole day off.
Right.
And he's saying, it's not really the person who's the problem, but how we choose to react to them.
Exactly.
Do we let their bad mood dictate our own? Or do we choose to hold on to our own directing mind and not let them steal our peace?
Exactly. And that choice is something we always have no matter what life throws at us. It's a remarkably powerful and modern concept, considering it came from a guy who lived almost 2,000 years ago.
I know. You'd think an emperor would have totally different problems than us.
Right.
But when you read Meditations, it feels surprisingly relatable.
Absolutely. It's timeless wisdom.
Yeah.
Timeless wisdom. Yeah, timeless wisdom. It's really incredible. But one thing that I think we've touched on but really need to unpack is this idea of living in accordance with nature.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What does that even mean in a practical sense?
Well, I think for Marcus Aurelius, it was about understanding our place in the grand scheme of things, recognizing that we're part of something much larger than ourselves, and that we have a responsibility to live in a way that honors that interconnectedness.
So it's not just about going for a walk in the park and calling it good.
Not exactly. It's more than that. It's about recognizing our inherent rationality and using that reason to guide our actions. It's about being just and compassionate, even when it's difficult.
Right.
It's about striving to live a life of virtue, knowing that ultimately our time is finite, which makes you think about how he approached his role as emperor, right?
Absolutely.
Because it sounds like he wasn't perfect.
Oh, of course not. No one is.
But it seems like he genuinely tried to apply those Stoic principles to his leadership.
He did. He believed that true power lay not in dominating others, but in serving the common good.
Okay.
And he recognized that this responsibility extended even to those who might be considered his enemies.
Which reminds me of this passage where he reflects on the importance of forgiveness.
Oh, yes.
He writes, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." I mean, that's a pretty radical concept coming from a powerful ruler.
It speaks to his deep understanding of human nature.
Yeah.
He recognized that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts ourselves in the end.
It's true.
It's a lesson that's just as relevant today as it was in his time.
Absolutely. It's like he's reminding us to choose compassion over vengeance, even when it's hard, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to do otherwise.
And that even emperors have bad days.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad days, there's this part in Book 10 that I wanted to ask you about,
Yeah.
where Marcus Aurelius talks about those people who, shall we say, weren't exactly mourned when they died.
Oh, yes. A bit of a morbid observation, but a keen one, nonetheless.
Totally. He even uses the example of a wise man whose companions are secretly relieved when he passes on,
Wow.
which is a pretty blunt observation coming from an emperor.
It's a little bit shocking, but also, refreshingly honest.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of amazing. But it does make you think about legacy,
Absolutely.
Even someone like Marcus Aurelius, who achieved so much and clearly strived to live a virtuous life, acknowledged that not everyone would appreciate his efforts.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
No matter how hard we try, we won't always be understood or appreciated.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to live a life that aligns with our values.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
Precisely. And I think that's a comforting thought. We don't have to be perfect Stoics to find meaning and purpose in life. It's about the daily practice,
Oh.
a constant striving to become a little bit better each day.
It's true. It's about, the process, not just the end goal. Right?
Exactly. And that's something that I find really reassuring about meditations is that it doesn't shy away from that struggle. Marcus Aurelius, even with all of his power and privilege, he was still human. He still experienced those same doubts and frustrations and anxieties that we all do.
And he still ate the whole pint of ice cream.
Well, maybe not the ice cream, but you get the idea.
Right. But the point is he never gave up on the practice of trying to live a better life.
Exactly. It's about the daily effort, the continual process of self-improvement.
And I think that's what makes meditation so relatable. It's not some stuffy philosophical treatise written by some untouchable sage.
Right.
It's like this raw and honest account of one man's attempt to navigate the messiness of life and to find meaning and purpose amidst all the chaos.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's what makes it so enduring. It's a timeless reminder that the journey of self-discovery is ongoing. There's no final destination, no perfect state of stoic serenity to achieve.
Yeah, it's more about just showing up every day, right?
Exactly. It's about the daily practice of showing up, of striving to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and to forget about the bigger picture, what's it all about?
Absolutely. And I think that's where Marcus Aurelius's wisdom is so valuable. He reminds us to step back from the chaos, to connect with our inherent rationality, and to use that reason to guide our actions.
So it's like a mindfulness practice almost.
In a way, yes. It's about cultivating that awareness of our thoughts and emotions without letting them control us.
It's about recognizing that we always have a choice, even when it feels like we don't.
Exactly. And that's an incredibly empowering message, don't you think?
I do. I really
Yeah.
do. And it makes you wonder, what would Marcus Aurelius think about us today, reading his personal journal almost 2,000 years later?
Right. Analyzing his every word.
I know. Do you think he would be horrified?
I don't know about horrified, maybe a little bit bemused,
Right.
but I think ultimately he'd be honored. I think he'd be glad that his words are still resonating with people all of these centuries later.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think he'd want us to engage with his ideas, to wrestle with them,
Absolutely. He wouldn't want us to just passively consume his words. He'd want us to take them and apply them to our own lives to see what works, what doesn't, to form our own conclusions.
He was all about critical thinking, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a champion of reason and self-reflection.
Which is probably what drew him to Stoicism in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not a dogmatic philosophy. It's more like a framework for thinking about the world. It is. And our place in it.
Right. And for taking responsibility for our own thoughts and actions, even when external circumstances are difficult or even painful.
Which feels, Maybe even more relevant today than ever, right?
Oh, absolutely. With all the distractions and the constant barrage of information, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed.
It really is.
Like we're just along for the ride.
Right. Like we don't have any agency.
Exactly. And that's where Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we do have a choice. We always have a choice.
We can choose how we respond to challenges,
Yeah, right.
how we interpret events, and ultimately how we want to live our lives.
Precisely. And that's a really powerful message, I think, because it means that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, we can still find meaning and purpose.
And maybe even a little bit of peace.
Exactly. A little bit of peace.
Well, I think that's the perfect note to end on, don't you?
I think so.
A little bit of peace in a chaotic world. That's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking out those moments of wisdom wherever you can find them.
And remember, the good life is not something we can postpone. It's something we must begin to live right now.
Words to live by.